First of all, got to give credit to where credit is due. Thank you, Omar, aka School of Scent, for the inspiration for this idea. I saw him do this recently, decided to give my own little spin on it. So we're talking about clones, which I don't talk about very much, as you guys know. Not really a huge fan, not a huge proponent of clone fragrances. I have my reasons. I've made several videos about it. I'm not gonna waste your time talking about it all here yet again, but I will link one of my most recent critical clone videos up here if you want to check that out and get some of my deeper thoughts on clone fragrances. But this video is meant to serve as service to you. I'm gonna offer my take with two different sides of the fence. We have 3 fragrance clones that I would not recommend to you and 3 fragrance clones that I would recommend to you. And in between each of these 3s, we have 3 very popular fragrances that have been cloned. Creed Aventus, MFK BR540, Rouge 540, and Bvlgari Tygar. So we have a pair for each of those popular fragrances. The clones I would recommend, I would do so because I believe they are sufficient next to their original counterparts. And the ones that I would not recommend are not superior to 1, the clones that I'm recommending over them, and 2, to the actual originals. So I would just say get the original or get the other clone. Let's dive right into it. We'll start with Bvlgari Tygar, which has kind of become the new Baccarat Rouge 540 in terms of a cloned DNA, a very simplistic DNA based on fresh, sharp, juicy grapefruit with some musk and woods in the background. Not the most natural smelling scent, but there's something about it that is just captivating. It's sexy, it's attractive, it's also super versatile and easy to wear, so that makes for a great fragrance for a lot of people. The most recent clone came out in 2022 and has been making the rounds like crazy. You know what it is. I can't say it's a bad fragrance, but for the price, I can't recommend it. Vibrato from Sospiro. I don't mean to poop all over Sospiro. There are some fragrances I do like from Sospiro. I don't dislike this as a scent. As a scent, it smells good. I've seen people defend it because it gets them compliments. If that's what makes a fragrance good to you, so be it. For me, I care about what it smells like. A good smelling fragrance. I can't deny it, but it's like 330 bucks. For this DNA,
just no.
I'm gonna give you a different clone that I highly recommend. This one actually came out a few years earlier in 2019 by the same perfumer, Christian Provenzano, who did Vibrato, but I think it was Jacques Cavalier who did Tygar. But Christian also did Arrakis from Spirit of Kings, which again came out before Vibrato. Same idea, that very simple, musky grapefruit. It's sharp and juicy and fresh, has a sexy quality to it. Honestly, it's more full with Arrakis. There's something just more naturalistic about it. It's juicier to me. And what I like about it is that for me, it doesn't really dry down powdery like Vibrato can do. And it's cheaper. You can generally find this under $200. So not necessarily a fantastic blind buy, but if you are gonna get a bottle and you put them side by side, definitely quite a big difference here. Instead of Vibrato, I would recommend Arrakis. Baccarat Rouge 540. Absolute world phenomenon of a fragrance DNA. I don't need to say anything about it, but what I will say is that there was a fragrance clone that took the world by storm. When it came out, it was sent to me by surprise by fragrancebuy.ca. They didn't say they were sending it. I unboxed it on camera, so my impressions were completely raw because I was not expecting to see it in this box. And I smelled it. I was actually kind of surprised by it. With my first impressions, I was like, this is better than I expected. But I have followed up since that video that I did about a year ago after giving it some actual wearing and have admitted this is not very good. When it dries down, it really smells like you're getting what you pay for and maybe even overpaid for. From Armaf, we have Club de Nuit Untold. Yeah, this was hot for a second. I don't know if it's still quite as popular. I don't wear this. I don't reach for it. On my skin, it gets really sharp and sour and weird after a few hours. I will admit that opening, they did a good job with this opening. It captures the magic of the original for me, but short-lived. Sorry, Armaf, if you see this. This is not one that I can have my viewers go out and buy as a suitable alternative. I would much rather you get the original, which is great, or get this one, which many people would say,
this is not a clone.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a bona fide clone. It is kind of its own thing, and I actually like it a little bit more than Baccarat Rouge 540. It is similar to Baccarat Rouge 540. We can't deny that. I know some of you will, but it's similar. And the question is, if Baccarat Rouge 540 had never existed, would this have ever existed? It's kind of like a tree in the forest, if it falls, do you hear it kind of thing, or Schrodinger's cat. I don't know. We can't really answer it definitively, but we're talking about Mancera Instant Crush. I do believe that if Baccarat Rouge had never existed, I don't think we would have this fragrance. It takes some of the core elements of that DNA, that saffron, that amber wood, that jasmine, as the forefront. That first spray, it's like, okay, I get that sweet cotton candy vibe. It's nowhere near as airy and ethereal as the original. It has more of a thicker, richer, creamier feel, almost rougher in a way. The vanilla in here really adds to that and kind of sets it apart. It's a strong fragrance. It's dense. It wears heavy. It leaves a trail. It's perfectly unisex. It's pretty sexy, honestly, if you're asking me. So I'd recommend this or the original before you ever even think about getting the Armaf. And once again, Creed Aventus. How many Aventus clones are out there? I don't know. Ask Guinness, because there's got to be a world record by now. Here's one that I recently got my hands on by surprise. This came with another fragrance in a package I was not expecting to receive, and I sprayed it, and honestly, I kid you not, right before I sprayed it, I told myself, this better not smell like Aventus. What do you think happened? That's why it's in this video. They just simply call it Volume 1, I think. Next Chapter Perfume Volume 1. Great bottle, beautiful design. You know, I read the write-up about it. It is a thoughtful, heartfelt design. They might even be contributing to charity. I'm not sure. So I don't want to knock the intention, but they also intentionally tried to create something that smells peripheral to Creed Aventus to ride its success. And ultimately it smells like it's kind of a watered down, like a Aventus Light. It reminds me of an Abercrombie & Fitch fragrance that I reviewed like 6 or 7 years ago. No one watched that review. To this day, it has like maybe 2,000 views. Not a whole lot of traffic on that one. And that one was kind of like a Aventus Light dupe, so to speak. This reminds me of that with slightly better quality. There's no real character to it. It falls utterly flat. Is it easy to wear? Is it nice smelling? Yes and yes. But as an Aventus clone, no. I cannot recommend this compared to the caliber of some other colognes out there, including this one. From Parfums Vintage, some of you guys may have seen their fancy and exciting new bottle design floating around, which is this. I think they're gonna offer just about all their fragrances in this bottle design. There's like 7 different colors that you can select when you buy your fragrance. You can select from one of the colorways. They have green, they have a blue one, and red and yellow, and some really beautiful designs here. But this one is the 6th anniversary fragrance of Pineapple Vintage Intense. They simply call it Intense 6. From what I can smell here, if anything, maybe it's a little bit more intensified. It's still got that very juicy, realistic pineapple with just the right amount of bitterness to it, so it doesn't smell like candy. And the Pineapple Vintage line isn't an outright Aventus clone. It's definitely Aventus adjacent, but it is a pineapple fragrance, more than a fruity sheep, more than an Aventus clone. But you can tell that it is, again, tied to Aventus, and if Aventus had never existed, this company may have never existed. We don't know, but it's given them a lane that they have really taken a hold of and they've conquered for almost the past decade. And they sent this to me in addition to a few other fragrances that I have been enjoying. It's been nice to get reacquainted with the brand with some of their newer releases. In fact, there's one I might even recommend a little bit more than this from them. That's Emperor Eau de Parfum, which I have been talking about for years. I've really loved Emperor, but I've wanted to give some shine to the new design here on camera. But just know, those of you guys that might be wondering, I would still highly recommend Emperor Eau de Parfum. It is to date one of my favorite Aventus alternatives. If it matters to you, it's one of my most complimented fragrances, period. Definitely check out what Parfums Vintage has been cooking up, especially with this new design. It's really cool, very heavy metal cap and high quality stuff. Okay, that's gonna do it for me. I'm sitting here on the floor because why not? Just wanted to change it up. I wanna know what you think. If I hurt anyone's feelings, I'm not really sorry. We're all adults. We can have opinions and we can disagree and talk about it respectfully. So if you want to do that in the comments, let's do that. There's going to be links to everything that I've talked about down in the description if you want to check out these fragrances. I'll even link the ones I don't recommend. I'm not trying to gatekeep anything or safeguard and say you can't buy this or you can buy that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I was very clear about what I recommend and what I don't, but if you don't care what I say and you still want to check out these fragrances, again, they'll be linked down below. Nonetheless, thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.